Welcome to my talk today. So today I'm talking about Scaled Agile. Obviously, you might think it's a fantasy or it's a reality. Maybe it's a myth or it's a verity. Maybe it's a legend on documentary. So who knows? So today I want to talk about all these different topics and maybe convince you that everything is a fantasy or it's a reality. So my name is Alex. I'm founder and managing director of venITure. And today we are exploring the world of possibilities in the area of scaled agile. So imagine a perfect world where transparency exists and teams deliver at the speed of light. So basically, as soon as you meet some person who's familiar with the scaled agile framework, this is basically what they try to sell you. And to be honest, it sounds fair, it sounds good, and usually that's something you might desire in your company or even on a personal level or on the team level, right? So maybe you think agile at scale is just a fantasy because everyone is talking about this, nobody has done this. And if you have met people doing this, they tell you scary stories. So you might believe that everything I'm talking about today, or everyone else maybe at this event, is achievable or not achievable. And this is something we want to talk about today and check if it's a real fantasy or if you can make this a reality. So before we start into going deep in this topic, we need to have these slides. So we need to talk about the terms and concepts. Why? Because everyone knows at least one of these words on this slide. But everyone has a different opinion or meaning or knowledge behind them. So if I would be in person with you and would ask the whole group, hey, what's lean? We probably get 80% of the people having the same opinion and the same definition. But in this case, to make this really work, we need to make sure that everyone in the room, including you, knows what lean, for example, means. Let's start, for example, here with lean. So lean is a term you hear very, very often in the scaled agile area, or even if somebody is talking about agile. So the idea of lean, you probably have known this, was developed by Toyota or in the factory of Toyota in Japan. And basically it's the concept about to improve the process, to reduce the waste with a focus on customers. And the most important thing here is that we look at something we call cycle time. So the time or lead time, usually also known. So the time from the beginning of the process until you get to the end of the process, and the whole process should deliver value to the customer. And this is something you want to optimize that you can deliver as fast as possible with the less waste and without delays. This is very important in this concept. You might have also heard about agile, right? So everyone wants to be agile, agile here, agile there, right? So the thing about agile is that this again is a concept, a basic concept, such as lean, when we talk about a person, a team, or organization, whatever you want to use it here, which is able to adapt to external changes. So maybe the demands of the customer are changing, maybe your process is changing. So whatever is changing, if you add the word agile in there, you would imply that this, what you add afterwards, is able to adjust or to adapt the change or the new scope as soon / as easy as possible. With these two words, we can deep dive into topics like Scrum and Kanban. So obviously, Scrum and Kanban is a term everyone is using and referring to. And I don't want to be the person explaining you what Scrum and Kanban is. So basically, Scrum is an agile methodology in which teams work in a time frame to finish some work and should use, for example, story points to estimate their work and to optimize the flow of these story points during the time. Kanban is kind of the same methodology, just without the time constraint. So you add the first item, you finish the first item, and you start with the second one. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So then we find words like DevOps and flow. So the thing about DevOps is that everyone is using it, but nobody is really explaining what it means. So DevOps is a thing to solve the connection between software development and operating and wants to combine this. If you combine this, you can get again back to the concept of lean, to reduce delays and to optimize the value chain to the customer to be as efficient as possible. Because usually, if you develop a software, you need to deliver this to the customer. And right now, everything is software as a service, so operating gets more and more important, and that's why you combine these two words. So another one is flow. So a lot of people are talking about flow here, flow there. So basically, the idea is that if you have an work item, it should as fast as possible get to the end of your value chain, and this is something what people call flow and want to optimize the speed of flow, the pass through, etc. So this is what they are referring here to. Now we get to the interesting parts. Let's talk about business agility. So what is business agility, you think, right? So everyone has his own opinion about business agility. But for me personally, this is the only term you can justify or clarify as goal. So a company wants, maybe, this is something we want to discuss later, to get to a business agility. So to get to this goal, you need to maybe apply one of these frameworks. Again, this is something we will check here. But ultimately, if you reach the goal, this means the company is able to adapt to changes. They're able to learn and train themselves to fulfill the customer needs. So if the customer has changing demands, the company is able, slash the business is able to fulfill the demands as easy, as fast as possible. But also, if for some reason Scrum is not the framework you want to work anymore in, or there's some other cool framework, your business slash your teams should be able to adapt to these changes or even improve their processes by their own to get a different level of maturity in their processes to fulfill the customer demands. So reminder, business agility is the goal. But how do I get to this goal? So then we have two other terms we need to discuss. It's called Agile transformation and digital transformation. So digital transformation is something a lot of people are talking about all the time. Yeah, we do digital transformation. Everything is fine. And yeah, you work better. And this is kind of true. The thing or the issue with digital transformation is I do the example of writing a postal mail, right? So obviously this process of sharing information via mail is working. So digital transformation would mean that we take this process, use a tool to digitalize this process, and whoops, we got the email. Email is great, don't get me wrong. But we see also now that email is maybe not the solution of everything. So chat tools came up, WhatsApp is coming up, whatever other chat communications, Teams, Slack is coming up. So obviously the idea of transferring information on a fast space or pace is possible when you do digital transformation, but mostly the process behind the business need is not really adjusted, just maybe slightly, but not re-evaluated if this makes sense or not. And this is the thing where, for example, agile transformation applies in. So agile transformation is basically the process within your company or team or organization to transform the process you have right now to apply one of these frameworks to make you agile and to achieve the goal of business agility. I'm almost done. The last and most important thing I need to mention now or today, we're talking about SAFe, Agile at Scale, Scrum at Scale, and even other frameworks like Spotify or less. So all these frameworks have the idea to support you as organization to get the goal of business agility, to apply the rules of Agile and Lean, to make your team, your organization adaptable and adjustable to the market needs or to the customer needs. So all of them have some advantages and also some disadvantages. And this is usually why there are more than one framework. You need to check which one fits you best. And at the end, every one of these frameworks has something in common. You have the continuous improvement. So whatever works for you, you adopt this. What does not work for you, you adjust it to make this happen for you or to solve the issue behind this. So let's talk about the fantasy or reality. As I started before at the beginning, Agile at Scale is something a lot of people talking about. This is like Scrum used to be 10 or 20 years ago. But is it a fantasy or can this be a real reality? And how can you introduce this to your organization, or should you not at all talk about this because it's not working? So this is something I want to talk about in the next minutes. So probably most of you are coming from DACH or from Germany. And we have a TV show which is called X Factors. Yes, I know there's also one from the US. It's completely different concept. But the idea about this TV show X Factors in Germany is that there is a moderator presenting 5 stories which tend to be very fantasy-like or crazy. So something with ghosts and something unexplainable happens. So after the story is told, or every story is told, he asks you, is this story true or was it simply a lie? I want to do the same with you. So I brought 2 case studies with me. Maybe they are real, maybe not, but I want to explain you on a real example what might be a fantasy or might be reality. So let's start with case study number 1. Let's assume we are in a company which is doing gaming slash developing apps for the marketplace, one famous game, whatever, right? So this company has a huge success over the last years, starting maybe by 2 people or 4 people, which had a crazy idea, software developers, gamers. And then they said, okay, let's develop this app. They developed this app. It was a huge success. So money is coming in, everything is nice. So why should we talk about Agile at Scale at all? So let's assume you are the project manager office in total, and you hear about frameworks like less, safe, etc. So you go to your manager and tell them, hey, I have heard something about scaled agile frameworks. I think they are nice. They could support us in our daily work. I want to book a training. So the management says, okay, please don't bother me. Go away, right? So these people, maybe even a scrum master or team lead, is joining one scaled agile framework training. They come back. and they figure out, hey, this, what I have learned, sounds like the solution for everything. We get better quality, we get faster delivery times, we reduce cost, and we have more happy employees. So they continue ask the management, this CEO, hey, now as I am a scaled agile expert, I want to introduce this to our company. And the management goes as follows. Why should we do this? We are successful. We are the best in the market. I don't see a need for you slash us to invest money to implement this thing, scaled agile framework. So you need to convince the management. You go to the management again and say, look, you like money, right? Or stakeholders like money. If we implement scaled agile frameworks, it will help us to reduce cost and we get more money out of it. And in this case, the management, the CEO is saying, yeah, try it out. Here you have some budget. Go search some implementation partner, go search for some tools, do it with one team. Don't bother me and show me and prove me that you can really save some money. So let's assume you find an implementation partner. So the implementation partner is executing trainings and he suggests, hey, to make this successful, we need to talk to the management. We need to include the management and we need to train the management and we need to adjust all the processes, etc. So the PMO office said, okay, we can do this. Let's try. But the management has not really interest in participating all these meetings. So you say, we will do it without the management because otherwise it will not happen. And I promised cost saving, so I need to deliver cost saving. So how could be the result? Obviously, we have no executive support. So the background also is that ultimately the management decides about everything. So even if you have project managers, teams, or even agile teams, at the end, the executive is doing the decisions about the big stuff. And as you have seen in the beginning, or in my example, they are not really interested in supporting this, which is not good. We will see this later. Also, the culture is not really the right one you would expect. So they have obviously agile teams. At least that's what they claim to have. But one agile team has more than 30 employees slash team members, which does not really comply with the rules of Scrum or Kanban. So your team should be something between 5 to 12. So some sweet spot between this. Also, as I stated before, at the first point, we have no executive support, but also the culture is everything will be decided by the executive, so by the CEO. So there is no space for autonomy, which is also not the best case you want to expect here. And last but not least, the fun fact is that the PMO controls everything. So they want to have stage gauges, they want to have certain quality gates, whatever, right? So they work still in the traditional waterfall model. And at the same time, they say we want to work with SAFe or with another scaled agile framework. This does simply not work. So the result is simple. They abandoned the project after 4 months after the kickoff. And the reasons are pretty simple. The executive did not decide or define the values they want to achieve, except of cost savings. The culture does not fit. The PMO has a different structure, even though they want to change. So last but not least, In this case, it did not work out and it was a failure, as we have seen at the end after 4 months. So huge waste of money. What should I say? You might say, I told you so. These agile, scaled agile frameworks won't work. Skip it, stick to whatever you like to do before. And obviously, in this case, this company is still successful and is still able to deliver value to their clients. Let's do a second example. In this case, we imagine that we have an US-based financial institution. It's not a bank, but it behaves like a bank. And usually, if financial institution is called, the first word you have in mind is definitely not agile, right? So what should I tell about this company? So it's a financial institution, large, US based, obviously successful, but also very highly regulated. Let's assume that the government will change the law. So within 5 years, you need to fulfill the new law. You usually execute waterfall projects in a 5-year term. So you would say, easy, we do it as we did last year or the years before. We do our waterfall project. But in this case, if you would not fulfill the laws within 5 years, you might pay a high fine, or even worse, you can basically close your company because you're not allowed to work anymore. So the CTO in this case decided, hey, let's try out this agile frameworks or at least agile methodology to make our business and this project successful. The reason why he decided or decides to do so is obviously waterfall does not work out for them. Additionally, if you have ever worked with government, then you know that laws are not very precise how you should fulfill them in the future. So you have a huge cone of uncertainty at the beginning. So you can't do requirements analytics at the beginning and build a 5-year plan with a hockey stick and be happy. So in this case, the CTO decided we want to work with a scaled agile framework. So how did this work out for them? So the CTO is asking and searching for an implementation partner, found an implementation partner, found also a tool. So as I said at the beginning, it's not only the agile transformation, because if you just change the process, the people will be very unhappy to use sticky notes offline. It's basically going back to mail. Additionally, if you do just digital transformation, so just buy a tool, for example, Jira, and call yourself agile, is not working either. So he searched for basically one partner who could do both. And he started with a workshop, training and including the whole management. And they defined the values they want to get out of the scaled agile transformation. It was not only business agility as ultimate goal and the goal to comply the rules in the 5 years. It was also to optimize the way of working within the whole company. And they decided whatever decision they do is to justify and reevaluate if this decision will help them to comply/fulfill the requirements within the next 5 years. So in this case, we have the full executive support. We did a workshop with the management and they decided the values. They applied a system thinking approach. So they found out who needs to work together, what they need to deliver. All people, all users, which are included in this whole agile transformation or in this project/in the whole company, are trained by the SAFe framework. And in this case, we implemented the whole Agile at Scale framework, including the tool, 9 months ahead of plan and under budget. You might think that this is not possible, as I said. So we have two stories. Which one of these do you believe is reality or fantasy? The fun fact here is both are true. But I tried to explain you a little bit what are the key things you need to have in mind to make this implementation successful or not. So how to make success your reality? I collected some best practices in order to make Agile at Scale a reality and not only a fantasy. So we have seen that by lack of governance and support of the management, this project will fail. So your goal is to establish government and to make sure that the process is measured to ensure that the agile practices will be implemented effectively and also providing visibility where you're standing and what the next steps are. And this includes that you use communication, effective communication. So you need to establish a clear channel how you communicate to the people, the employees involved in the process to make buy-in from them, to have them leading or going with your change you desire within your organization. And this comes basically to the next point, which is the employee engagement. So by engaging the employees, it will support your implementation process. And you get engagement if you provide them trainings on what they need to do and what is working better if they would apply these changes to the future. Last but not least, you will see it in every agile framework, the continuous improvement thing. Usually this is something where people say, hey, we skip this, we don't have time, I don't see value. Do it because this is the only way you get to business agility. So to a company which is able to adapt because you need to make mistakes, you need to learn, and you need to improve. And based on the concept of flow and lean, if you do it as effective as possible, you'll be able to adjust to the changes as fast as possible and will have success on the market. So how do you basically start with your organization? I would suggest that you start small. So not as in the first gaming company example. So obviously you need to start with small changes, but have management included. So do the executive workshop with the management, have the buy-in of them, start with one team, one value stream, whatever you want to call or refer them, do small baby steps and try to continuous improve because this is the last thing. And you get the engagement with the communication. Also, when you are the leader or one project manager, embrace the change. So be open for the change. Be prepared to adapt and adjust your implementation processes on your needs and do not fall back to your old patterns. So you need to lead basically the change to make this happen. So I hope this will help you to get a better understanding about Scaled Agile, how to implement this, and hopefully today you can say, yes, Scaled Agile is not a myth. It's working in reality if you do it right and follow the best practices. If still there are open questions, contact me and reach out to me and I will support you. Thanks very much for listening. Hopefully see you soon.